Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel, boys and girls, or if you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about the 2014 film Noah, based on the biblical story of Noah and his ark, with a dash of the Book of Enoch, which is, it's a Jewish book. I don't fully understand it. I'm assuming it's like, the Bible DLC, basically. And then a bit of extra Hollywood pizzazz to make it a fun, happy-go-lucky movie that I would call family-friendly, but it's really not family-friendly in any meaning of the word. So, I'm going to quickly give a synopsis of the film. After that, I'll go into a little bit of historical context / biblical context, and then jump right into the meat and potatoes of this title, being the morality the show represents. So, we open up the film with Noah receiving this artifact from his father, this snake skin from the Garden of Eden, displaying the first sin mankind committed. But before his father can, complete this little family ritual tradition thing, an army led by Tubal-Cain, king of the men of Cain, comes, kills his father, and takes the land to be used for mining this, sparky gem thing that, can be used to produce light, or can be used as a weapon that can break through the hide of stone beasts. More on those later. And so Noah runs. At some point, he finds the woman that would end up being his wife, and he fathers two children, Ham and not Ham. I don't remember the older brother's name. And then around the time the film begins, there is a third son that has been conceived, and they're living their lives. When Noah receives a vision from God, showing the world will flood. Or rather, there will be a great flood. And so he goes on a quest to find his grandfather Methuselah, a man who had more constant communications with God. And so he goes out. Along the way, he and his family find this little girl who ends up being the wife of older sibling. Again, I don't remember his name. He's not really important to the plot. So they save her life because she was injured, and they take her along with them. Where they get spotted and chased by a group of Canesmen, because it's kind of hinted that life on the planet has been dying, and there hasn't been a lot of animals to hunt as of late. So, cannibalism is on the menu. And a few of them chase Noah and his family out in this dark, black desert, where they are brutally killed by a Watcher. The Watchers are fallen angels. After the sin of Adam and Eve, they came down to help mankind survive. However, God did not want them to help mankind, and so he imprisoned them in shells of earth, binding their golden glow to the rock that they were not allowed to go to, condemning them to be trapped as mortals on this plane. For a time, they helped mankind. Then mankind, being mankind, betrayed them, and they only survived thanks to Methuselah slaughtering everyone who tried to attack them. And then, by that point, no one really cared about the Watchers anymore, and so they were allowed to live in peace. The Watchers hold them prisoner, but one decides to help them out and takes them to Methuselah's mountain, where Noah speaks with his grandfather and learns that he was told about the flood because God has a plan. See, there are people on this earth, or things on this earth, who don't deserve to die because of the sins of mankind. So God seeks for Noah to construct an ark, to transport his family and two of every remaining animal into the next world that will be made after the flood. And so Noah receives a seed of Eden from his grandfather, plants it, and it grows into a prosperous forest, of which he and the Watchers use to construct his ark. Decades pass, and the water flow from the forest and the movements of the animals to the ark attract Tubal-Cain and his people, who have, at this point, basically, there is no food. There is no water. Everything that exists is in this new Eden, and when he finds out that the world's going to flood, he wants that ark. The token force he has brought with him, and with the weapons that they have, are not able to fight the Watchers. So he pulls back and begins constructing a camp that naturally attracts everyone else. And he picks off a few of the birds and animals that are trying to get on the ark and uses those to get more men, to feed his own soldiers, and to... I'll get into that part next. So, Noah informs his sons that, hey, you are old enough, you deserve wives as well, I'm going to go out and find you some wives. So he goes out into the camp to find some daughters of Cain who are they're sinners because they're worse sinners than the line of Seth, but they can still be redeemed possibly. So Noah goes into the camp to find some girls to take with him back to the ark to be his son's wives. And he sees the absolute sin and depravity and evil of mankind on full display. Fathers throwing their daughters for scraps of meat, and men throwing themselves at fences like ants to tear it down. And when they finally tear it down, they are placated by a single goat, ripping it to pieces and dining on its flesh while it still bleats in agony and pain. And Noah sees this, and he believes that mankind, which is capable of such an evil, cannot be saved. So he goes back to the ark and basically tells his son, "You're not getting a wife." So Ham goes out to try to find a wife. He does find a nice little girl. Well, I say little. He finds a nice girl, young woman, and takes her back with him. She gets caught in a trap. Noah doesn't let him save her, and she's trampled to death, showcasing that even the line of Seth are cold-hearted and callous. There's a big, epic CGI battle between the Watchers and mankind as they charge forward like something out of a Warhammer 40k movie, and the Watchers beat them aside like ants. But Tubal Cain and his men, they are smiths. They know how to work iron, and they know how to tap into the Earth's resources, and with this understanding of industry, they lay the Watchers low, bringing them down with shock powder and pikes until there are no Watchers left. But by then, the floods are hitting. Geysers shoot out of the ground, slaughtering people by the dozens, and as the water begins to rise, it becomes harder and harder to reach the ark as the ground gets muddy. Tubal barely climbs the scaffolding, gets on the ark, as Noah is holding the door against the tides of mankind when all hell breaks loose and the flood begins in earnest. We still have 40 minutes left. Noah and his family sit in the ark, listening to the begging and the screaming and the dying of the masses of mankind on the outside of the ark. And Noah lets his family know that they will be the last of humanity. That, from what he has seen and his interpretation of God's will, mankind does not get to go to the new world. That his youngest son will be the last person to live. Then he finds out that that little girl from earlier, the one that married his eldest son, is pregnant. If it's a son, that will be the last human on Earth. If it's a daughter, well, he's already a sinner. Might as well add fratricide to the list. Fratricide, that's killing your family, right? I think. So, basically, it becomes kind of like a thriller bit, as like they all plead with Noah, and he's like, God decrees this. Mankind cannot live in the new world. There's a final fight against Tubal Cain, where he does like some villain stuff. He also talks to Ham about like, God made us smarter. That is why we get to butcher the animal and eat of it. I'll get into that in the morality section. The daughter, or the wife, gives birth to two twin girls. And Noah has the chance to kill them, but he can't bring himself to it. And he views that as a weakness. He views that as he failed God. So he sequesters himself away from his family, becomes a bit of a hermit, until his son's wife approaches him and convinces him that if God didn't want mankind to live, then he would have found some way to not need the ark. That by having Noah on that ark, by having the family on that ark, God wanted mankind to live. And with that solace, he rejoins his family, and he passes on the tradition. Oh, he got the snakeskin back from Tubal. He passes on the snakeskin to these two little girls, and mankind becomes what it is today, over time. So that is a synopsis of the film. Now to get into a little bit of the biblical and historical context. I mentioned the lines of Cain and the lines of Seth a lot. Adam and Eve had 3 sons. Cain, Abel, and the third, less-known son, Seth. The story of Cain killing Abel, that's well known. Cain was the first murderer. He also went on to found the first city, Enoch. Book of Enoch. Who would guess? Seth was the third son. And he spawned a line of heroes. And also, all of you watching are of the line of Seth. Why? Because it was the sins of Cain, of the men of Cain, that brought the world low. And so God, when he did the flood, erased the line of Cain. So of the original humanity, only one of the three bloodlines remains, the line of Seth. Tubal-Cain is actually a character in the Bible. He gets a sentence more than most of like these genealogical records in the Bible actually give. Tubal-Cain, the first blacksmith, or the Lord of Smithing, or something like that. I don't remember his actual title. And Tubal, or that is the anglicized version. I don't know the actual like Hebrew way of saying it or writing it, but it basically translates to seasoning. So Tubal-Cain means the seasoning of Cain, because he was the blacksmith. He was the first blacksmith. He took iron, he took bronze, and he improved upon Cain's sin. He improved upon murder. Now, you don't just use a rock, you use a knife, you use a sword, you use a spear. And yeah, I could also mention that there are theories that there was a civilization that was kind of formed before the Ice Age the Ice Age ending happened, and then the end of the Ice Age caused that to break up, and then and that might be the origins of the myth of the flood. I guess. I don't know. I'm not a paleontologist. No, not paleontologist. I don't know. The person who studies prehistory cultures. I'm not that. That's not my field of study, so I'm not going to go into that much. But the morality of the film. What is the film trying to tell you? It's actually really simple. Tubal-Cain is a representation of selfishness to a fault. Noah is a representation of selflessness to a fault. See, Tubal's point of God made us better than animals. We are to rule over them. We are to lord over them. That is true. That is what mankind is meant to do. We are to be the masters of this earth. We are to manage the garden for God. However, we were not meant to oppress the garden. Tubal's perspective of ruling is that of a tyrant. He views animals to be not just like, oh, I dine on your flesh because I need to. It is my right to eat the flesh of an animal. Whereas Noah views mankind's purpose as we are no better than the animals. We are to exist in the world and not to damage it, especially after what Adam and Eve did. We do not dine on the meat, we only take of the fruit and only what we need to survive. And mankind, if mankind needs to die, mankind dies. Unlike Tubal, who was, for selfish reasons, fighting for the survival of mankind. And it's really commenting on how both extremes of selfishness and selflessness are just as toxic as one another. If you are entirely selfish, you will destroy everything around you trying to live as best you can. But if you are too selfless, you will never truly live. You will never truly make an impact on the world at all. So you got to learn to be selfish enough to dine upon the world, but also not too selfish and be selfless enough to not destroy the world. Yeah, it's a very basic message, but given that we have people who go, mankind should die to save the climate, or you have people on the other end who are fine polluting the atmosphere and filling the oceans full of plastic just because we can go to Mars, or it's not our problem, it's our descendants' problems, it's definitely a good message to have. So, if you stuck around this long, thank you for watching. If you hated this video, leave a dislike, leave a comment explaining why you think I'm an asshole. I would love to hear your opinion. Thank you all so much for watching. Catch you next time. Later.